film tells the story of a mysterious virus hitting Korea, causing chaos and disorder throughout the country because the infected people turn into zombies. We see the struggle of a father trying to care for and protect his daughter, who has also turned into a zombie, so the army won't hunt her down and kill her. Our movie today is My Daughter is a Zombie, 2025. The story starts with a man named Lee returning home and finding his daughter, Suba, a zombie. Strangely, he was not surprised at all. He remained very calm. Even though Suba tried to attack him, he stayed calm. But let's go back a bit before these events happened and before the zombie virus struck the country. Lee was working at a zoo, and Suba was a student who loved K-pop songs and had a Persian cat named Yoonji. At that time, she was busy watching breaking news on TV showing infected citizens attacking people on the streets of Seoul because this strange virus spread very quickly, causing panic. That day, they were celebrating Solo's 15th birthday simply, and the cat, whose nickname was Ginger, was not interested in the conversation because there was no fish on the table. Suddenly, they heard noise from outside. When they looked, they discovered that their neighbor was dancing the Ross Romancy dance in broad daylight, but they didn't realize it was a zombie attack. In the end, something terrifying happened. It turned out that it was not Ross Romancy or Neela, which scared them and made them hide inside while the zombie approached wanting fresh blood. It tried to break the window. Lee was very angry because it would be a lot of work and tiring to clean the house. He said he would call the police, but the zombie woman didn't care and tried to enter the house, so they had to escape immediately before getting infected with the zombie virus. When they went down to the street, they found the situation was not easy at all because the whole area was full of zombies of all shapes and colors. A zombie riding a scooter, a zombie grandfather, and even a zombie Chihuahua dog. Lee came up with a plan to go to his mother's house in the village, pretending to be zombies himself and his daughter so they wouldn't be targeted by other zombies. Their appearance became like those who had eaten the flesh of a rabid zombie, but unfortunately, all the zombies noticed they weren't part of the group, so they had to run quickly. Suba fell, and the zombie grandmother prepared to bite her, so Lee sacrificed his hand. Luckily, the zombie grandmother had dentures, so she couldn't bite him, and they had to leave the place immediately. After that, Lee stole a car, and it was not easy at all because all the zombies tried to catch them. In the end, they managed to escape with the stolen car, but it turned out Suba was infected because while waiting for Lee to steal the car, zombie kids bit her. Lee tried to calm her down and told her that the hospital could probably treat her, but the virus started spreading in her body. We see Suba gradually losing consciousness and turning into a zombie, attacking him to the point that the car crashed into the barrier in the middle of the road. Lee tried to calm the situation without hurting his daughter. That night, their grandmother, Cam, arrived home. Lee was waiting for her and tried to lie, telling her that Suba was sick, which made Cam very worried. She tried to enter the room to see her granddaughter, but saw a terrifying sight because Suba had completely turned into a zombie and was trying to attack her. Suddenly, with supernatural powers like in the Matrix movies, Kim controlled the situation after Lee told her exactly what happened. Kim was very sad when she saw Suba had turned into a zombie. Then they saw on the TV news that the government had closed all streets and placed military guards doing everything to prevent the mysterious virus from spreading. The army would execute anyone infected, and their words turned out to be true because the next day, when Lee went to the hospital to get more information, he found the situation chaotic. The zombies being treated started to riot and attack anyone, so the army immediately carried out their mission and executed the infected on the spot. When Lee saw this, he had to leave immediately before they found Suba. Back at home, Kim saw on TV that the government warned people to report immediately if they found anyone infected with the virus. Lee decided to dig the ground to bury his daughter himself instead of the army executing her. He said he would do it himself and apologized to her that he had to do this, but when he came to kill her, his heart wouldn't allow it. He apologized and started crying, telling her he couldn't be a good father. When Kim saw this, she got very angry and tried to kill Suba herself since Lee couldn't. The two started fighting because Lee believed the hospital could find a cure and return Suba to normal. Suddenly, the cat Ginger warned them that Suba had escaped. Without wasting time, they ran after her quickly before she attacked the villagers. Finally, they found Suba in an old warehouse. I think the reason she entered this warehouse is that when she was little, she loved to play here with her mother, which means she might still have human memories. Lee tried to play Suba's favorite songs and got a response from her, proving that she still had human consciousness and hadn't fully turned into a zombie. That night, scientists finally identified that the infectious disease was caused by a virus called the GI virus. This virus destroys soft tissues and leaves instincts like zombies, but not like the zombies in the game Plant vs. Zombies that eat the brain. The research team discovered that stimulating the cortex of brains infected with the GI virus restores memory and weakens the virus. Back to Lee, who tried to make rice with eggs, hoping Suba would eat normal food, but the attempt failed, and it turned out she preferred meat. Suddenly, Lee's childhood friend Joe came to visit after hearing she had returned to the village. Joe asked about Suba, and although they tried to lie, he realized she had turned into a zombie. Joe, thinking the village was in danger, tried to contact the police, but Lee stopped him and explained that Suba was still alive with human consciousness. He even showed him videos proving this and said he was now trying to activate Suba's memory to weaken the GI virus through training. Joe refused, saying the situation would be very dangerous if the virus spread in the village and that it was better to follow government instructions before a disaster happened. But the next day, Joe was waiting to explain that his relatives working in pharmaceutical companies had finished animal trials and said they would apply for emergency use of the medicine. Joe also agreed to help train Suba until the treatment developed. To start training, they took Suba to an abandoned island. The first test was training her not to bite, and the situation became comical when Suba ran after Lee because he looked like a pig to her. In the next exercise, Lee made Suba blink, which the cat Yunji easily did. Then they used a whistle as a signal for Suba to stop attacking. Day after day, tirelessly, they trained Suba, and good progress began to show. They were taking notes according to the training dates at the same time. The government succeeded in reducing the number of new infections and even offered a prize of 100 million to anyone who reports an infected person day after day. They continued the training so that Sue could return to being a normal person until the drug development was completed. Time passed, and now Sue became able to understand what she should do and what she shouldn't. They trained her on simple phrases like saying, "Dad," but the matter was not easy at all and took longer, while Yongji the cat was showing off and proving that it was very easy for her. Kim advised Lee to go to the city to buy makeup for Sue, but while he was there, he met his childhood friend named Shin, who recognized his location even though he was trying to hide. Shin did not expect Lee to return to the village. She was a teacher at Yunbong Middle School, and this meeting was like a reunion for them both. Lee told her that he was now living with Kim and his daughter. When Shin heard that, she was surprised that Lee got married and said she wanted to meet Sue, but Lee refused and asked her to get out of the car, even though Kim's house was still far. It turned out that Shin was Lee's first love, and Joe was the one who invited her to meet because the three of them were childhood friends in the village. Shin heard from Joe that Lee returned to the village because he was fired from his job and that Sue was being treated for a brain problem. She offered Lee that Sue could go study at her school, but Lee refused and lied that Sue was being homeschooled. Then the news about the zombie virus suddenly ended. Shin said she hated zombies very much because when her fiancé got infected with the virus, she had to kill him with her own hands and said she would not allow that to happen to anyone else. Lee thought that Shin was a professional judo player and had won many awards. At that time, Sue was interested in the cosplay festival on TV that would take place in Oslo, and Lee wanted to take Sue to the festival and look for her costume. But he found an old document about Sue and started hallucinating and imagining that Sue was still a normal person talking like before, and even her head was the same. Unfortunately, all this happiness became just a dream, and he sat crying that night. Lee explained to Joe that he wanted to take Sue to the festival, hoping that her memory would return. At first, Joe did not agree, because Sue had never been to a crowded place before. But after Lee begged him, Joe agreed to go with them. The surprise was that Shin had gone to Kim's house, and suddenly Sue woke up, maybe wanting to go to the bathroom. Shin tried to get close to her, but Lee pushed Sue quickly inside the room, which made Shin suspicious that something strange was going on. Lee and Kim staged a play to make Shin leave the house and told her that they did not want her to come back. The next morning, Kim started using the makeup that Lee bought to make Sue's appearance not look like a zombie, and the cat Yongji was sitting next to her while Joe was dressed as a character from the cosplay, and his belly was visible. Finally, Kim finished her mission, and Sue went out with beautiful makeup that made her look like she was not a zombie at all. Now they were getting ready to go to the carnival party. After that, Kim went to attend an event in the village because their village, Umbang, received a certificate of appreciation for becoming the safest village with no virus attacks. The surprise was that the village mayor asked Kim about Sue. After hearing from Shin that the girl was not going to school and that in the village, all children must attend school, Kim was confused by the question and left immediately, but the mayor stopped her and asked where she was going. The party was about to start. In the end, the senior citizens party began, proving that they were the kings of the party with their crazy energy because age is just a number. Then they went to Ausland. During the carnival party, they were enjoying the beautiful night, and nothing bad happened because Lee was sure that Sue was perfectly fine and would not attack like a zombie. Joe received good news that the GI virus drug would be available soon, so the hope that Sue would return to being a normal person became real, which made Lee very happy. But without noticing, Sue disappeared. Both were very shocked and started looking for her everywhere. It turned out that Sue was attracted by the smell of food there, and although someone bumped into her, Sue did not get angry and kept walking looking for something that looked delicious. It turned out to be churros, and the seller ran after her because she did not pay. Fortunately, they found her, and Lee apologized and paid for the food. The surprise was that Sue pronounced the word churros, which shocked both of them because Sue had not spoken at all. Lee was very happy and said he would buy all the churros from the man, and the seller was surprised by what was happening. Back to the village, when Kim arrived home, she found Shin waiting for her and already knew everything about Sue from the notes Lee had been writing. In the end, Kim explained everything to her, and it turned out that Lee was not her real father, but Sue was the daughter of Lee's sister named Jungyeon, who had died at that time. Jungyeon used to always fight with her husband because of money, so she returned to Kim's house, and since then, Lee always played with little Sue. But one day, Jungyeon died in an accident. Lee was very sad, and since then, he became Sue's father, while her real father took all of Jungyeon's insurance money and started a new family alone. When they returned home, Shin tried to attack Sue because she was still convinced that the girl was very dangerous. Of course, Lee tried to protect her and calm Sue, who wanted to attack Shin. When Shin saw that, she was surprised because she understood Lee's words. They made an agreement that if Sue was really safe and could think, she must go to school as proof that Lee's words were true. But if she refused, Shin would report to the police. Reluctantly, Lee agreed to the agreement, and from that day, Sue started going to school. Shin explained to all the students that Sue had difficulty speaking, but on her first day, they tried to bother her while she was silent. Fortunately, Lee, who was there, tried to fix the situation, even though what he did was very silly because his contact lenses moved to the corner of his eye. Even when they were playing basketball, Sue tried to participate, but unfortunately, Shin, who was still affected by the zombies, hit the ball hard, and Sue fell on her face in a funny way. Lee took her to the clinic immediately, and Joe worked hard to fix Sue's face. Finally, after several attempts, Joe succeeded in the task. Shin apologized with an apple from the children, and it was clear that they cared about Sue very much despite her strange appearance. That night, Kim and Sue played Cochina and were happy with the game, both of them. Even the cat didn't care. Suddenly, Sue's real father arrived, named Hansen. Hansen came because many people were looking for Sue, since during the cosplay carnival someone recorded a video of her, and it went viral. Kim could do nothing but surrender when Hansen tried to kidnap Sue to get the 100 million. When Lee received the news that Sue was kidnapped by Hansen, he ran after him and stopped his car, even though it was very dangerous. Lee was very angry and hit Hansen, and they started fighting. When Sue saw Lee being beaten brutally, she got angry and attacked Hansen, biting him like a zombie. Lee shouted at Sue because she made a deadly mistake by biting a human, and thus Hansen began to turn into a zombie, so Lee had to kill Hansen. And after this incident is why Lee Sue decided to leave the village because he didn't want to cause many problems there. Although Joe didn't agree because he was worried that Sue would be executed and Lee would be imprisoned, Lee was sure that this was the right decision. Kim also decided to go with them, along with the cat. Before they left, Lee asked Kim to help him by giving a message to Shin, but they saw army forces heading to the village because they were tracking Sue's location. When Shin opened the message, she discovered that Lee's goal was to keep Kim, Shin, and Joe away from the problem because he knew the army would soon arrest Sue, and he decided to take responsibility alone. Currently, Kim's house is full of army forces, and the commander is asking Kim about their whereabouts. Lee planned to take Sue to the deserted island and live there, but they were delayed because the army arrived and surrounded the area. The two of them immediately hid in the warehouse and started trying to negotiate. Lee explained everything about Sue, that she still has human memories, is not dangerous, does not bite anyone, and can even talk. Lee begged them not to kill his daughter and said he was ready to open the door, but the army does not negotiate with criminals in their eyes. When Lee saw this, he could do nothing but surrender and apologize to Sue for not being able to protect her. Worse than that, he gave her the last mission to bite him. Of course, Sue refused, but Lee explained that this was the only way for them to go to heaven together. So Sue bit Lee, even though it was wrong because she did something that was forbidden from the start. Finally, the army managed to enter and opened fire on Lee, who began to turn into a zombie. They stopped shooting when Sue started crying and calling him dad. 3 months after this incident, we see Sue waking up in the hospital, having recovered from the GI virus, which made Kim, Shin, and Joe very happy. After that, Kim took Sue to see Lee, who was being treated in a coma. Scientists discovered antibodies to the GI virus in Lee's blood, which could be the key to developing a cure, increasing hope. They explained that they analyzed Lee's blood in detail and found neutralizing antibodies, so Lee's body could heal itself from the infection after Sue bit him. It turned out this happened because Sue caused Lee mild injuries repeatedly due to daily interaction over a long period, during which Sue was gradually recovering. This stimulated an immune response, or we can say it acted like a vaccine, which is why Sue got better. Later, Kim gave Sue a notebook where Lee had been writing during training, like when Sue was playing with Yeonji and her grandmother, and even when she bit something. On the last page, Lee had written, "Whether Sue recovers or not, she will always be his daughter, and they will be happy forever." Time passed, and they were still waiting for Lee to wake up, but the cat Yonji, Shin, played a video of Sue in a head competition, even though she knew Lee was in a coma. The surprise was that Lee heard the music and began moving his fingers. This is the end of the movie, and we will meet again in a new summary. Thank you for watching.